My wife and I got the chance to check out the new Mach E, which this dealer only had one option available, and they also only gave us 15 minutes to really check it out. So this is not a review. Our impressions are very brief and very surface level, and we weren't even really sure how to put the thing in drive at first because we didn't get much of an orientation. So once we figured it out, we were on our way. 237 miles at 97%. Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Still have this dial on the screen I'm not crazy about. It's weird.
Yeah, that's very weird.
And we're moving.
Bizarre.
You can see a decent visibility. Very quiet, of course. Ooh, wow. It just kind of glides. I definitely feel planted. I feel like visibility is a little tad narrow. Oh, okay, see, that's the regen. It brakes very differently from the car I'm normally driving, so I'm like, oh. I think it has a little creep to it, yeah. So by default, when I take my foot off the brake, it wants to roll. But I believe that's a setting you can mess around with in here. Panoramic glass roof, which is kind of cool, though this center beam and back beam is pretty thick compared to a typical Model 3 or Y. But you've definitely got handles back now, which my wife really appreciates. That screen does look pretty big, although I'm noticing how I got to look kind of through the steering wheel to see the screen behind me. I should have adjusted it before we started. I'm proud to say this is the first Mustang I've ever driven. I've had a lot of friends with Mustangs, but I've never driven one before. So I'm glad the first one gets to be an all-electric. Yeah, the brake pedal's kind of touchy. You have to be very gentle with it, otherwise it kind of cuts really quick.
And this, like, I don't know if that's metal or plastic, but it looks really, like, cheap. Like, I don't know, a toy you buy from Dollar Tree or something.
There's not a lot of map to interact with. I feel like by default it's always showing something else other than where you are. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a single motor or a dual motor variant. I guess I'll floor it and see how it feels when we enter the freeway right here. Okay, ready, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Honestly, wasn't...
Yeah, I think this is
like,
the single motor.
Yeah.
I think I could tell by that acceleration.
Like the Model Y felt a lot faster.
It felt more like a pushing sensation, more so than a pulling, like pulling away from us. So it was fast, don't get me wrong. Still plenty fast to accelerate to get up on the roadways. But yeah, it was a little anticlimactic. Yeah, they could, I think, work on that UI a little bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of plain.
I want to move it up.
I noticed there's a lot more buttons. Like, there's so many buttons there. There's so many buttons on the steering wheel.
We still got 2 wireless chargers, USB-C, USB-A. This is, I feel, a little redundant. I've just gotten used to the Model Y and Model 3 being able to adjust gears with the gear stock. Now this does your wipers, I guess. It's got lots of cameras. I think there's an interior one here. To me, it feels a little bit smaller on the inside than the Model Y. Just a tad bit.
Buttons for the door locks, yeah. They still have just a normal handle for this.
Oh, that's good.
There's a very small glove compartment. There's an SE for reference. How do you like it so far? First
It drives great. The handling's pretty great. It feels very planted, very smooth. They brought that clean electric acceleration where you don't feel any of those gear shifts feeling over. I like the feel of the steering wheel. The interior feels very nice, very premium. Knowing the size of the battery pack they put in these things, I think this one still has like a 75 kilowatt hour battery. I'm very curious how they make these profitably, and maybe they're not too profitable, which is why they're kind of doing a limited time only. This is the only one that was available at this dealer we went to, so there's not going to be a ton of them, at least at first. They're kind of just testing the water, seeing how people react. I hope that they get lots of positive feedback on them, because I want Ford to make more kind of vehicles like this. I'm not entirely sure if branding it as a Mustang was the right call, but very fun to drive. A cool look. I'm looking at it in the reflection of that glass there. I think it's a very good looking car.
Yeah, those are cool headlights.
So I didn't realize this when we first started. You pull this back to engage the parking brake, and then you push it forward to turn it off, which is why we couldn't get it in drive at first. I was like, what do we do? This actually locks in place. See, like right now, I have the parking brake on, and this will not move. Like, you can't twist it if you want, which to me feels a tad redundant. I feel like the end car should be able to recognize, okay, the driver's trying to put it in drive, let's just put it in drive, not be like, oh, he has to push this first. We got park here, we got park here. Other redundancy on the screen. Lots of different options to choose from along the steering wheel. You've got voice commands, you got your phone call, cruise control. I think this is a lane assist of some kind. Maybe that's what that was. Traditional AC vents, so you don't have to default to the screen. But I like this kind of carbon fiber texture.
There's so many different textures here. There's
There
like
is.
a fabric kind of a speaker type
Right,
fabric. Then there's
yes.
like plastic or something. Then carbon
even these
fiber.
have
Then this
buttons.
is like faux leather. And then like black plastic. It just can't decide what it wants to be.
Up here it even has buttons. I think this is for like a home link section. You can open your garage door from there.
Yeah.
And inside we've got some lights, pretty standard stuff, I guess.
Seems
but
like Ford really likes buttons. There's like buttons
Yeah.
everywhere.
they've got a lot of different options to choose from. Yeah, definitely not going to be a 7-seater crossover. That's for sure.
Look at that back corner window too. It's tiny.
Oh, that's a very tiny wedge of a
See
window,
that?
huh? Very little. Yeah, the seats are comfortable though. I like how these seats feel. You notice the exit door handles are a little different.
Oh wow.
They like push forward on it.
That's cool. There's a lot of moving parts. All right, so all in all, what are your first impressions?
All in all, I'm in love with the exterior. After finally seeing it in person, this is a bit of a hot take. Some people are going to disagree with me on this. I actually think the outside looks better than a Model Y, like in regards to aesthetics and curves. I know it's very subjective and it depends on the person, but I think it's very stealthy and aggressive looking. So I kind of dig the exterior. Interior, I don't know, maybe it's because I've gotten used to Tesla interiors despite not owning one, but it feels very pushed inward. Like if you look at the windshield and how much of the hood I can see in the front, all that red, and how much space there is between the edge of the windshield up to here and between all the edges and the door frame and on these center columns all feel blown out a bit. To me, it just feels a tad more claustrophobic on the inside, despite the car still being pretty big. Doesn't feel super spacious, but I mean, it's going to be practical enough. I'm sure you can fit 5 people in here comfortably, somewhat comfortably. This was a terrible idea. Once we get into the interior, I have a lot less nice things to say about it. If you're going with a dynamic user interface, you want to be able to change it on the go. Yeah, see, this keyboard has to go up here because of this dial. You have a much smaller, in my opinion, less intuitive keyboard interaction. Yes, keys are somewhat responsive, but yeah, so I mean, it's a step up, I'm sure, from what it used to be, but because I've heard Ford's had issues with software in the past, but in my opinion, this is pretty responsive with the touch interface, though I do think most people are realizing that landscape is the way to go with these displays, not so much portrait. This screen, I heard people talking about it having an option behind it, but to me it's so small that I would much rather just glance over here anyway, because this screen is actually really tiny. Like, look at my hand. It's not like an extremely interactive. You can't put much information here in the first place. That's why I kind of find it redundant. Like, I imagine with the proper software, you probably could have gotten away just with one center display. Yeah, overall, the choice of materials was great. Everything feels very, very sturdy. Good amount of give. Just the layout, I think, is what could use some work. Finding a way to make it feel a bit more spacious and open.
Like this, in the Tesla, there's only like one little thing.
Right, one tiny little column there.
And here, it's like so
And
bulky.
here, everything feels very large, sometimes unnecessarily. Like it's kind of a whole glass roof, but at the same time, it ends right there. And then you have this giant column in the back and a tiny amount of visibility. I can see pretty well throughout this rear view mirror, but it is pretty condensed down, but I guess that's why you have the backup camera and that kind of thing. Switch this to reverse, you could actually see a 360-degree view of our surroundings, which is kind of neat, and where the columns are headed.
They don't have the color right.
If I turn like this, the lines change, which is kind of neat. So the color, you're right, this is supposed to be a red Mach-E. I don't know why the software has it labeled as something else. I guess it doesn't matter that much, but kind of nice. I kind of dig the button approach.
Yeah, I like this one though, because it has like a little handle.
Just a tiny little one, yeah. You just push, and I like that. It makes the door look cleaner. Yeah, it's interesting how this whole top piece they blackened out so that it makes it look like it's less curvy, but they still get the aerodynamic benefits of the hatch. A lot of people don't like these brake wheels. I kind of dig them. I like the three. Yeah, I think they look brake lights. Sorry. Some people don't like these, but let me see what happens when I lock it. Yep. Yeah. It looks a lot more expensive than it is.
Isn't it like 53,000?
The entry-level models are around 40, so this is a problem people might run into. There's a dealer markup. 88 kilowatt hours? Yeah, this was rear-wheel drive. That makes sense. It felt like it too.
What's the range?
Well, it was at like almost 100%. It was like 240. Oh, it does say 300. I wonder why inside the car it was much lower. Hope Ford can sell a bunch of these. I hope if you're waiting on yours, you can get it real soon. And I think you're gonna like it, to anybody who's chosen to buy one. So you just gotta remember, before you leave the car, we gotta turn it off. Turn off motion sensors. Oh, check. Let's say no. Let's see what happens. There's no one back there. I don't know why I think someone's back there, but there we go. That's it. I guess it's off, even though it's still got the screen on. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.